The search for an immigrant teen who ran away from a Brownsville shelter has prompted questions about the government's responsibility while caring for a minor.
Our border reporter Oscar Margain verifies what shelters can and cannot do when a child decides to flee.
It's day 3 since Brownsville police received a welfare call for a missing child, and investigators still aren't sure of his whereabouts. So how can this happen under the government's watch, especially with 12,000 immigrant children in their care and all the national attention? Or better yet, can these immigrant kids decide to leave these shelters if they wanted to? This is what we know so far. In this recent case, a 15-year-old undocumented Honduran boy who came into the country unaccompanied decided to leave Casa Padre shelter for immigrant minors Saturday. Now, Southwest Key Programs, which runs the shelter under a government contract with the Department of Health and Human Services, had this to say in a statement. First, they cannot restrain the teens as they are a shelter and not a detention center. Second, they try to talk to the teens to convince them to stay. And lastly, if they decide to leave, police get involved in the search. Police say this is a challenge since they cannot post a photo or the name of the child because of the age and immigration status.
But in this type of case, it's a little bit harder because there's no local family members that we can say, we can go and find out more about where he might be.
A source involved in the case tells us the boy's father is in the U.S. and has been informed about the incident. If the child is found, Health and Human Services says the child will be handed over to Homeland Security custody and likely referred to HHS until they find a sponsor. Trevino says it's not the first time his department responds to a welfare call for a runaway child from a shelter. He says investigators are looking into the ports of entry to see if the teen has crossed into Mexico. So although these shelters are instructed to ensure children remain in the facility, these boys and girls can't be held against their will. Calls to Health and Human Services as well as Southwest Key Programs to find out how many cases of runaway children they've had have so far gone unanswered. Reporting in Brownsville on the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Margain.